Brighton! Anyway, so it's good to be back in Brighton. Nice to be back. So, before we get into this, big news in my life was I turned 35 about 3 years ago. Not massively happy about being 37. I still feel like a young man. Do you know what I mean? In my mind, I still feel like a young man. I feel like a 17. Like near where I live in Brighton. I live in Brighton, by the way. Can you tell? Big beard, check shirt, Vans. Every bastard looks like this in Brighton, don't they? For me, walking through Brighton's like walking through a hall of fat, haunted mirrors. Awful lot of hipsters in Brighton, don't they? Jesus Christ, so many hipsters. This is true. I was coming back very late from a gig once, and I came out of the station down that underpass, and there was a homeless guy. Sounds like he was having some difficulty breathing. So I went over to give him a hand. Turns out, just beatboxing. Beatboxing, that's what he was doing. He was absolutely fine. But that's Brighton, isn't it? Throw a stone, you'll hit a dickhead. That's why there's a Pebble Beach. Anyway, yes, Brighton, I live in Brighton. And at the end of my road, there is a music studio, because in Brighton there's a music studio at the end of everybody's road. And all day long, I just see these 17-year-old dudes in bands walking up and down. Just 17-year-old dudes in bands walking up and down. I know they're in a band. I know those bastards are in a band, because they're all wearing black. They collectively weigh about 8 stone, and one of them's got a hat on. Pisses me off, man. What pisses me off is they're all wearing Nirvana t-shirts, these dudes, right? And I liked Nirvana back in the 90s, and it seemed to me like every time I really get into a style of music, start really liking it, something really awful was happening. Do you know what I mean? Like In Excess, Nirvana, Queen, Amy Winehouse. I've started listening to Ed Sheeran. Because with great power comes great responsibility, lads. You gotta realise that. Do you know what I mean? I don't like their music. Well, they're interested in my music. Like, I can't go to festivals anymore. I'm far too fucking old to just look like I'm there to pick up the kids and not necessarily my own. Interesting. I went to Glastonbury when I was a teenager, and it pissed it down the whole time I was there. Like, trousers filled up with water, my tent filled up with water, my sleeping bag. You know what I did? I just didn't go to bed. Just did not go to bed for the whole weekend. Do you know why? Because I was 17, right? There is no way I would put up with anything even approaching that level of bullshit now, do you know what I mean? I did some gigs at Latitude last year, and when the falafel tent ran out of quinoa, I just shouted, the whole thing's fucked! Flounced off to my hotel room in Ipswich. You know, at the very least, I expect my yurt to have good Wi-Fi, otherwise, go fuck yourself, you know? And I still feel like a young man, even though I look like a child sculpture of Brian Blessed carved out of ham. People think, Brighton, people think because of the way that I look that I smoke an awful lot of weed. And I don't. I don't at all. I smoke exactly the normal amount of weed for a man with my life goals. It is not true. No, now that I'm 30, I don't smoke weed at all anymore. It just makes me feel anxious, weak and unwell, and if I want that, I'll get a sandwich from a service station. When I went to Glastonbury, I went with a bloke called Grassy, right? And Grassy had the drugs. Everyone's got to make like Grassy when you're 17. Grassy, the guy you go to get the drugs. I mean, he used to smuggle MDMA into festivals by sellotaping them to his testicles. I mean, you might think you've taken MDMA before, but you have never truly experienced it until you've had it alongside the super salty, sweet and sour tang of Grassy's ball sack. Like pork scratchings on a hot day. Yes, lovely. So I still feel like a young man, you know, in my mind. I'm a young man. I'm still a 17-year-old, even though the world out there has changed immeasurably since I was 17. Like, when I was 17, if you wanted to send a picture of your dick to somebody, you'd just not do that. That's the thing, isn't it? about being 17, you know? I mean, no one expects you to be anything other than a bellend, do they? No one expects you to have achieved anything in your life, you know? And when I was 17, you know, I had no idea of the world around me. I had no idea what was happening outside. You know, as long as I could sit in my room, you know, playing GoldenEye on the N64, listening to Nirvana and masturbating over Gail Porter, you know, Princess Diana could have been killed for all I'd know. But now... Yes, but now, you know, now that I'm sort of approaching 40, I'm just expected to have achieved all these life goals, aren't they? Like my first car, my first house, my first marriage. It's fucking brutal, I think. I'm about halfway through my first marriage now. I can tell I'm getting old. No, keep reminiscing about the wedding. We had a really great wedding, me and my wife, 7 years ago. We had a great wedding. Like a lot of people from Brighton, we're kind of kooky twats, like most people from Brighton. We tried to have quite an unconventional ceremony. Like my family sat on the left, Beck's family stayed in the car. A grandmother didn't want to come at all. We had to trick her into it by pretending there was a fucking meat raffle. Pissed me off at the time, now that I think about it. It pissed me off at the time because everyone said I was tight. Everyone said I was tight just because we didn't have very much money for the reception, so everything had to be homemade by the family. You know, like my mum made the cake and Beck's mum made some really pretty disparaging remarks about the cake. But for our honeymoon, we went to New York, right? We went to New York, and it was amazing, even though I am terrified of flying, properly terrified. On the way back, I was holding my wife's hand so tight, her engagement ring turned into a real diamond. But we made up for it. We made up for that lack of money. We made up for that lack of money, lads, by having quite an exhaustive wedding list. Quite exhaustive. I'm not going to bore you by telling you everything we added to it, but put it this way, we did not have to buy printer ink for quite some time. I know how to live. My wife wanted to ask for towels! Towels! On the wedding list, which is fine, but it meant that I had to spend the whole day, but seemingly the whole day, on the internet looking at towels. Right, just a million different types of towels. I'm trying to add something to the conversation. Are any of these towels poisonous? Are any of them made out of jelly or sandpaper? I'm sure any of these towels are fine, but it doesn't matter. It does not matter what I thought about those towels. Now the sidebar of every website I visit is towels. We have towels. Look at these towels. Buy our fucking towels. What happened to all those sexy girls in my area who wanted to chat? It turns out sexy girls in your area are fickle. They're fickle the sexy girls in your area are. Fickle the sexy girls in your area are. They don't want to chat forever. No, that's because as each year passes, I get older and fatter and more interested in towels, and they get younger and prettier and more interested in being let out my basement. Yeah, lovely. When we got back... See how long we've got. When we got back, we moved into our flat in Brighton. Give us a cheer if you live in a flat in Brighton. Is your flat insanely small? They're expecting us to live in Brighton is mental. My flat is so... There's two of us that live in this flat. It's so small. Every time we put a key in the front door, I scratch the kitchen window. Our flat is fucking tiny. We don't even have... I'm 37 years old. We do not even have a bathroom in our flat in Brighton. We don't have a bathroom. What we have got, and I wish this wasn't true, but it is, we've got a shower cubicle that just sits at the end of the bed. It just sits at the end of the bed like a mouldy great glass elevator has come through the ceiling and landed at the end of the bed. I mean, it is quite convenient, I'll give it that. It is quite convenient having that shower cubicle at the end of the bed there. But it does mean that every morning my wife wakes up to me doing a sort of sad, tired, nudie dance in a glass tube at the end of the bed. Like the opening credits of the world's cheapest Bond film. One person whistling, out of pity. Yes, so we've been married 7 years, my wife. We still don't have any children. I think we're far too selfish as people. Because when you've got kids, people with children here will know, when you've got kids, you can't do whatever the fuck you like anymore, can you, mate? All right? You cannot drop everything and spend all day in a pub or a strip club. You've got to take your fucking kids with you, haven't you? Bore the tits off the bar staff about his wonderful the little Oliver is free to explore while he's pouring spitty orange juice into a stripper's handbag. We're still far too selfish to do it. Parents will talk about their kids, though. Jesus Christ. I think it is. What it is, I understand it. It's because parents are interested in their own children. Sometimes they make the mistake of thinking that their children are interesting, don't they? And it's not necessarily the case. Although, to be fair to parents, I think famous people are the worst people for this. So remember, the guys know who Simon Pegg is, right? Simon Pegg, movie star now, who used to be in Space and shit, but he took his 4-year-old daughter onto Radio 1. Right? I like Simon Pegg. I wanted to listen to what he said, but he took his 4-year-old daughter onto Radio 1. She sang a song, and it was adorable. It was adorable, but you wouldn't put up with that shit in any other walk of life, would you? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be flying at 30,000 feet this morning. But before we take off, my son Michael is going to come down the aisle and show you some of his drawings. Would not put up with it. So we don't have kids, we do have pets. We filled that tiny, horrifying little flat with pets, and they're just like having kids, except I don't have to explain myself to social services every time I accidentally leave one of them chained to the radiator while I nip out for more ketamine. We've got a dog. The dog is a Chihuahua. Thank you very much. People cannot deal with a man who looks like me owning a Chihuahua. They need me to be gay, Brighton. They need me to be gay. I've lost count of the amount of men I've fucked out of sheer politeness. But that's me, man. I love animals. Fucking love animals. Love animals. I punched a bat at Chester Zoo. Went to Chester Zoo and I punched a bat. I mean, that's it. That's the whole story. Has anyone been to the bat enclosure at Chester Zoo? How cool is the bat enclosure? Basically, I'll tell you, if you haven't been to the bat enclosure at Chester Zoo, it's amazing. It's completely pitch black, and the bats just sort of fly around your head like sort of horrifying airborne rat squirrels. And I was really impressed, so when I walked in, I just went, this is amazing, and literally punched a bat out of the air! Punched it out of the air! I mean, I didn't mean to do it, but from everybody else's point of view, it was like I'd gone, fuck you, bats! Yeah, so much for sonar, you leathery fucks! I felt terrible about that bat. Punched it in the face and didn't have the good grace to nick his trainers. So this is the thing now I'm 37, I'm beginning to worry that I'm not the sort of person I always thought I would be. Do you know what I mean? Like, I always considered myself to be a sort of liberal, lefty sort of person. Give us a cheer. Have any lefties in? Give us a cheer. That's the sound that lefties make, isn't it? Are we, darling? I don't know. Land Rover Discovery. I consider myself to be a lefty, you know. I do all the things that lefties do, you know. I recycle. Obviously, well, I used to recycle before Brighton Council turned it into the Riddle of the Sphinx. Oh, my purse is in plastic, but never in tin. I'm off found in paper, but no glass I am in. Thanks, Brighton Council. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been an absolute joy. It's so nice to come back to Brighton. I will see you again. Thank you very much.